You're welcome. Okay, so on the bell work, I had up on the screen our transformation form. Y equals A in the numerator, X minus H in the denominator, and K always gets left out back at the end there. So as I'm looking at this graph and I'm wanting to write a possible equation, do you guys notice anything about the graph that I might be able to use to determine A or H or K?
The X and Y asymptote.
The X and Y asymptotes. So let's look at those asymptotes there. Thank you, sir. Where is our vertical asymptote at? The one going up and down?
3.
At 3. And what axis does it go through? The x-axis. So I have x equals 3. What piece is that telling me? Is that A, is that H, or is that K?
H.
That is H. All right, so I can start writing my possible equation here. I would have y equals, I have no idea what goes up in my numerator. I know x goes in the denominator. If H is 3, am I going to see x plus 3 or x minus 3?
H opposite minus.
Yes. In my equation, it becomes the opposite, so it's going to be a minus here. All right, you told me that we could look at this other asymptote as well, right? Okay, so let's go look at our other asymptote, the one that goes back and forth. What axis does this go through?
Y.
Y. So this is a y equals, because it goes through my y-axis. Where does it go through the y-axis at?
1.
At 1. So y equals 1. If the vertical was my h, that leaves A and K.
It's K.
This is K. So how does that show up in my equation?
In the back.
At the back. Okay, so I have a 1 here. Is it going to be a plus 1 or a minus 1?
Plus.
Plus 1. Now the last thing we need to figure out is our A value. I'm looking around this graph. Do you guys remember when we labeled our pluses and minuses around the graph?
It's 2.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just 2. It's negative 2.
Very good. Tell me how you guys figured out, first of all, that it was negative. Because it's reflected. It's in my negative quadrants. Yes, sir. Your vertical asymptote right here. It's going through the 3 on the x-axis. Vertical asymptote is your h value. Horizontal asymptote is your k value. Always, always, always. Good questions. Okay, so we have graphed things in the 2 negative quadrants. So I know the A value is going to be a negative. Tell me how you guys figured out that it was a 2.
From where the isotopes intersect, you just go with the 2 and always go down.
There we go. So even though they didn't scribble out on this picture, we were always scribbling out wherever we were not, right? So they're not in the positive quadrants at all. And then what we did yesterday is we looked at where these asymptotes were crossing, and we counted up and down, left and right along the asymptotes. Well, if I go up 1, 2, and I hop into this quadrant, there's a dot right there on one of those grid marks. If I go to where the asymptotes cross and I go down 1, 2, and I hop into this quadrant, there's one right there on a nice grid mark. If I go to the right and then in 1, to the left and then in 1. So yes. So this would be my equation then. Y equals negative, because I'm in the negative quadrants. 2, we count along the asymptotes. How far over do you have to go so that when you hop in 1, you land right on a grid mark? H comes from your vertical asymptote. K comes from your horizontal. Beautiful work. That was the harder of the 2. Let's do number 2 down at the bottom here, and then we're going to practice doing some more graphs on our own. I know I need a y equals What should I put up in the numerator for my a value? 2. Says it's been vertically stretched by a factor of 2. So that goes up in my numerator. Do I need a negative there? What word would I be looking for if it was supposed to be negative?
Compressed. Vertically compressed.
Not compressed. That would be if it was a decimal or a fraction. Reflected. If it was reflected, then we would have a negative there. Right? I know the denominator has to have an x because anytime we write a function rule, anytime we write an equation, we have to have an x and we have to have a y. So I have to have those two variables. Should anything go down with the x?
Bring 3 down and switch it.
Bring the 3 down and switch it. It says that we have a vertical asymptote at x equals 3. So here's my h value. So it's going to be minus 3. Yep, it's a positive h value, but we always make it the opposite when we put it into the equation. Last but not least, do we have a k? Negative 4. So out at the back, I have minus 4. Yes, sir.
Now, this may be a silly question, but this is just to get it out of the way. But will we have to deal with the value of b in this equation?
That's a great question. For these rational functions, because this is the first time you guys are looking at these, and we got enough going on with the asymptotes all over the place, we are not going to deal with a b value here. That's a great question. There are some other things that we're going to look at, and we'll start getting into those tomorrow, like if they give it to us in a form where it looks more like what we did before spring break, but we're asked to graph it, we're going to start talking tomorrow about how to get it into this form. But for today, I still want our focus to just be on this one right here. We're going to identify our AH and K, and we're going to graph it. All right? Let's go to 194. Do a couple of graphs here. As soon as I see that it is a rational function, what is the very first thing that I do to my graph before I do anything else? Pluses and minuses. I want to know where my positive and negative quadrants are. So I do my pluses and minuses around the edge. Second thing I do, after we label our pluses and minuses, what do I need to know about these functions? The A, H, and K, absolutely. We're going to identify A, H, and K. Thank you, sir. So what is my A value? Be careful here.
3.
Close. -3. Nice job there. We got this negative out in front. Sometimes they put it right up with our numerator. Sometimes they put it in front of our fraction. If you see it in either spot, it goes with our a value.
And that means you can scribble out the plus segments.
We're going to be in our 2 negative quadrants. I'll scribble out the pluses after I draw my asymptotes in, but you're absolutely right. We are going to scribble those out. What is my h value? Close.
Positive.
Yep. -2 because it is always our opposite. And then I'm going to take and put that right on the graph. We're going to graph the vertical asymptote and the horizontal asymptote. Does H tell me the up and down one, the vertical, or the back and forth one, the horizontal? Up and down. I always find H with X, and so it's going to go through the X axis. So X equals -2. So I'm going to find -2 on the X axis, and we're going to go up and down through that. I still need to know K. What's our K value? K is 1. So what's that telling me? Yep. Horizontal side to side, y equals 1. So I'm going to go to the y-axis at 1. We're going to go back and forth. And now I'm going to go in there and scribble out the ones that we are not graphing in. There's nothing special about doing the scribbling out. It's just so that I don't make a mistake. If you want to write like this is the dead zone, don't graph here. That's all we're doing with the scribbling. So I do my pluses and minuses around the edge, then we identify AH and K, we graph our asymptotes, and the last thing we do is we're going to use our A value up, down, left, and right. So what is my A value? -3. Negative part tells me we're in the negative quadrants. Other than that, I'm just going to count 3. So up 3 and in 1. So starting from where my asymptotes cross, we're going to hop up 1, 2, 3. Can I stay on the asymptote? From right here, I'm going to hop 1, 2, 3. Can I stay right there?
You have to go over 1.
We have to go over. You're not allowed to stay on the asymptote. Remember, asymptote is an invisible line you can't touch. Going over 1, which way over do I go? Left.
Preferably not into the dead zone.
Don't go into the dead zone.
Go into the not dead zone.
There we go. Then I go back to where they cross. Instead of going up 3 this time, I'm going to go down 3. We're going to go all 4 directions with this. So I go to where they cross. 1, 2, 3. Which way do I hop this time?
Right.
Hop to the right, not into the dead zone. Go the other way. 1, 2, 3. So I've got a point right here. All right. I went up. I went down. Do you guys want to go left or right next? Left sounds good. As long as we go all 4 directions, it doesn't matter what order we go it in. So I go to where they cross. Left 3, 1, 2, 3. I cannot stay on the asymptote. Where do I go? Up 1 so that I get out of the asymptote and out of the dead zone. And then last but not least, we need to go to the right 3 and in 1. So I go back to where they cross, go to the right, 1, 2, 3. And I need to go, I always hop in 1 because I just need to get off the asymptote. And I'm going to hop this way into our negative quadrant. 1, 2, 3, we're right here. So I've got 4 dots on here. That's going to guide my graph. I need to make it hug along the asymptote, so it's going to make like an L shape or a J shape, depending on how you look at it. It needs to hug along the asymptotes, and it needs to go through those 2 dots that I've got. It will not cross those asymptotes there. Beautiful. I want to go through identifying the AH and K with you on the next one, but then I want to leave you guys, give you a couple minutes to graph it on your own, and then I'll check yours against mine. We'll put it up on the board together, okay? So looking at number 4, what is our A value? -1. Remember, always look to see if there's a negative out in front. If there is, it goes with your A. What's H? 2. Because between here and here, it changes signs. And what about K? -1. All right, I'm going to give you guys about 2 minutes to get this graphed on your paper. And then we'll check yours with mine. All right. So I'm going to do my pluses and minuses first. The position of those never changes. Are we going to be in the positives or the negatives? What do we look at? A value. A is negative, so we're going to be in the two negative quadrants. A value determines which quads we're in. Then I need my asymptotes. Where are my asymptotes? Give me the x equals or the y equals equations. X equals 2. Y equals -1. Beautiful. So I go to the y-axis, I go to -1, I make it go back and forth. I go to the x-axis, I go to +2, I make it go up and down. Remember, the x equals or y equals part, that's there to tell you what axis you're going to touch. We're going to be in which two quads again? Negatives. So scribble out our dead zone. And how far are we going to count along the asymptotes? 1. We're going to go up 1, down 1, left 1, and right 1. And then we always go in 1. So how many dots am I actually going to have? 2 dots total. 1 here, because when I go up and I jump in, and when I go left and I jump in, I land in the same spot. And I'm going to have 1 right here. When my A value is +1 or -1, I'm only going to end up with 2 dots total, 1 in each of the quadrants. And then we're going to trace along. Beautiful, beautiful. I've got 2 more examples for us, and we're done for today. Tomorrow we'll practice a new skill that goes along with this, but for right now I just want to keep it focused on this. So flip the page for me. Let's do this one like we did the last one. Let's identify A, H, and K together, and then I'll give you guys about 2 minutes to do it on your own. So help me out with my A, my H, and my K. A is 4. H is -2. I love that you called out that opposite there. And K is +1. Take about 2 minutes. Label your pluses and minuses. Put your asymptotes up. Remember, X and H go together, Y and K go together. Label my pluses and my minuses. What is the horizontal, the back and forth asymptote? I need the whole equation.
Y equals 1.
Y equals 1. When I ask for that on homework or test, I do need the whole equation, because if all you tell me is 1, I don't know if it's the back and forth or the up and down one. So I need the y part to tell me that it's the back and forth, that it's going to go through the y-axis, and I need the 1 to tell me where. So what's my vertical?
-2.
Whole thing.
X -2.
There you go. X equals -2. Beautiful. So we're going to go like this. Which ones am I scribbling out? Which ones do I not need?
Negative quadrants.
I do not need my negative quadrants. A is positive, so I don't need my negatives. And then A is 4, so we're going to go up, down, left, and right 4, and then on all of those we'll go in 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, in 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, in 1. There's one of my quads. My hand started to wiggle. 1, 2, 3, 4, and in 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, and in 1. Always hop in 1. Always count starting where the asymptotes cross, and we go all 4 directions. You guys ready to try one last one? Then you guys will have the rest of the class time that we have together to work on the homework that's due tomorrow. Yes? Yes, it does. That was actually my question. Would you mind saying that just a little bit louder, because it feels like I planted you in the audience here? If it doesn't have any k value, then k is 0. What do you think that would mean if the only thing on the denominator was just x? If you couldn't find h, what would that mean? Then h would be 0. All right, so k is 0. Which asymptote is that telling me? Back and forth, the y equals, or up and down, the x equals? Back and forth, y equals. Y equals 0. Where do I see that at? Where is 0 on here? Where is y 0? Yep, right on top of my x-axis. Y equals 0, because I don't go up or down at all. Okay, what's my h value?
1. A equals 2.
Yep.
H equals 1.
H equals 1, and we've got our opposite here. So I go x equals 1 for my vertical asymptote. So right here. What is my a value? 3. A is 3. So which quads will we be in? Positive quads. Scratch out my negatives. Don't need those. That's my dead zone. We're going to be in the positive quadrants, and we're going to count how far? 3. Up 3. 1, 2, 3, and in 1. 1, 2, 3, and in 1. I still need to do down and to the left. 1, 2, 3, in 1. 1, 2, 3, in 1. Beautiful, beautiful work. If you don't see k, k is 0. If you don't see H, H is 0. Because we're working with fractions, this is one of the few times that you will always, 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 always be told A even when it's 1, because you can't leave the numerator blank. Beautiful. You guys have the remainder of class time to work on the homework that is due tomorrow. And tomorrow is pretty much going to be more of the same, but revisiting an old skill that we used first semester so that we can get it into this form right here. Nice work today, guys.